Will be buenos what?
Oh, buenos knockers.
Butchers got it.
Hello, and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. I'm Len D'Amico, and this is episode number 116.
Woohoo!
It truly is an honor tonight to have Ron Duncan and Marty Whalen this evening. What an honor it is. I mean, you guys have been involved in Columbus music for a minute.
1979.
79.
Well, Marty's 78.
Yeah.
78, 79, and that and forward. I know that Ron and I have been talking about doing this for a little while, and I'm glad we were able to do this, but he didn't want to do it without this guy to the left, Marty Whalen. Marty's got quite a story himself, but I think with Ron Duncan, say hello, sir.
Hello, everyone.
And Marty, how about you?
Hello, everybody.
A shout out to do you want to talk about your business, your shop?
Well, yeah, I've had a hair salon the whole time that I've been playing music. It's important to my family, to have that fallback situation there, and it's just gone on, and just love that. Shout out to everybody in Cova, Mad Dog at work, and but it started out as my backup plan. If the rock thing didn't pan out.
And what's the name of your
M
shop?
Salon.
M Salon. Mm-hmm. Located?
It's at 460 Oak Street inside the Encova building downtown here in Columbus.
My son lives right across the street.
Yeah. That's a brand new building.
Well, everything's going on over there. It's a great area.
It's starting.
And you've had that shop for how many years?
46 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, go see Marty and his crew at I'm sorry, what's the name?
M Salon.
M Salon. Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
Ron Duncan is a vocalist. He's been around Columbus, Ohio since '79. He says here, Ron, you're just filled with stories and adventure in the Columbus music scene. I've heard you perform a couple of times. You've got that register of voice that is it can stop you. It can give you pause. It's a talent that you're sharing through your music. It's a given.
I've been doing this.
Vibe, man. How long you been doing that?
I've been doing it since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I have parents that were. My mom played piano. My dad played guitar and piano, and they both sang, and that's where I learned how to sing harmony more than anything. A lot of people go, you're the lead vocalist, you're singing all the melody lines. Well, it's important, I guess, but all through school, I went to Columbus South High School, had an incredible music program during that time. Left there and started at Ohio State in 1976. I auditioned for the symphonic choir there with Dr. Maurice Casey, and got in there, and it allowed me to do a lot of different things. I was exposed to some pretty strange situations there, but it was incredible.
Yeah. Now, when you say strange situations, what do you mean?
Let me see. What's the guy's name? He ended up being the first gig I ever did with, first concert was, I think we did Carmina Burana with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra in Cincinnati. And I think his name was Robert Levine. He ended up being the head of the Metropolitan Opera, but he was younger then. And I remember I had long hair, and I was walking next to him, and he goes, I looked over and went, oh God. But he ended up getting fired for just what we were talking about, So yeah, it was a great start for me. I learned so much about the voice, how to project, the different sounds you can make. You got you have your voice, you have your falsetto, you have a pinched falsetto, head voice. There's a lot of different things you can do with your voice, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that physically. And but in 1979, I was going out seeing all these bands. I mean, I seen everybody, Journey, all these different, Van Halen, all these different bands.
Coming through Columbus, Ohio.
Oh yeah.
As a youngster.
And then going to World Series of Rock and things like that. And I always, always wanted to be in a band, but I thought, well, man, I'm just not that good, or good enough to do something like that. But I just kept, listening. And in 1978, it was in the fall, I went and jammed with some guys out on the east side. Shout out to Clay Woodward.
Nice.
He's his dad's company was out there, and he was the guitar player. I think he played an ES 335 Gibson hollow body, and had a couple other musicians there, and so it got me started. And then in the winter, I saw this ad, and I think the name of the local rag was Columbus Earthly or something like that. But it wasn't Columbus Monthly, but I saw this ad in the back that said, band, Mercenary, looking for a lead singer.
Really?
Yeah. And I go to the audition, and there was Marty. I looked over and I saw Marty. I went, holy shit, I know that guy, man. He's from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we just started talking, and we discussed it, and I told him, I said, I used to play basketball with your brothers. And and I did the audition. The two songs I learned that night were Riding the Storm Out and Feels Like the First, Feels Like the First Time?
For Foreigner?
Yeah, Foreigner.
Wow.
But they were playing it in a higher key because the guitar player...
no, it was Hot Blooded.
Hot Blooded, that's right, Hot Blooded. And they were playing a different key. And I'm going, man, that's not right. And they finally the guitar player looks over and goes, well, it was easier to play the lead in. And I'm thinking, wow. And, this same guy, he ended up being probably one of the greatest musicians, and definitely one of the top guys that went to Hollywood and became famous out there. His name was Ron Kanan. You can look him up, guys. Incredible guitar player.
Nice. And
great musician. And so he went on to become famous out in Hollywood. I sent him a message one time. I said, yeah, we played for 100 people at this bar. And he goes, yeah, I just played for 25,000 people. They were doing halftime at the LA, what is their soccer team out there, Galaxy or something like that. I'm thinking, wow, it's great.
That's pretty cool. That's very cool, dude.
But first gig I ever did was in May 19th, 1979. And I'm kind of like that. I kind of chronicle everything. Everything in my life is kind of chronicled, and I do remember basically everything.
You're an organized fella.
No, I wouldn't say organized, but when you live this and you remember things.
Yeah.
And so we played Wallerman's Barn down on Route 33 and Bixby Road. And I was working at a printing company at the time, so we did all these flyers. I mean, we had flyers everywhere. And we had, how many people showed up that night, you think?
I have no idea.
It was between 1,600 to 1,800 people showed up in this little barn.
Is this the Mercenaries that were playing?
Yeah, Mercenary. It was, and we were playing, it was me and Marty on bass and vocals, Ron Kanan on guitar and vocals. He played mostly lead. Mark Gainey was the other guitar player, incredible musician, and he sang. And his brother Mike on drums, and he sang. So we were, and the gig went incredibly well. I mean, it was like, we thought we were rock stars afterwards. And it was such a great feeling. And I had all these friends I grew up in the South End, Marty grew up in the South End, and we had all these friends come out to see us. And it was just an incredible night.
Damn.
And
what year approximately were we talking?
1979.
Damn.
And then we played... And then the guys from Dynamic Entertainment, they were there to see us. And we basically got gigs off of that gig. 2 weeks later, we were opening up for Shakedown at the Agora.
Nice.
And then played the rest of the summer. We were playing with the Muff Brothers at the Agora, and we were their opening band. And I think that was usually on a Friday or Saturday night, depending on whether they had a national act on the other night. And met John Durzo, supreme bass player, and we just had a blast, man. It was we ended up doing the Sugar Shack that summer, and we played opposite Black Leather Touch, and we were thinking, Black Leather Touch, they play, a lot, a lot of Leonard Skinner and stuff like that. And, I think we'll probably blow them off the stage. No, man, they ate our lunch, but we learned so much. They were so nice. And
you learned from them too.
Oh,
it's cool.
Well, we learned from everybody at that time.
We learned not to underestimate someone.
Yeah. It's what you don't underestimate anyone.
Yeah.
But they were so nice. Tom Cash and the guys, they were just super guys. And then that band we were basically broke up, and by the end of the year, and the next year we had we were playing some different acts, different guys.
Do you remember when that band broke up? That we drove around the West Side looking for
Tommy Edwards.
Tommy Edwards. If we had Tommy Edwards, we were going to be bigger than the Beatles.
I think
Tommy is legendary.
I told the story to him. He looked at me and grinned and goes, "No, man, no." I said,
I thought someone was after him to kill him or something.
I met Tommy when he was working with Matt Stone with the first lineup of the Liquor Talking. Yeah. And as awesome as he is today, I can only imagine where he started.
When he was young, man.
He had a set of those octobans, that acrylic, tiny, and double bass. When the first time I saw him, it was like Tommy Aldridge. He was just amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then I met, and with Shakedown, then that was Robbie Stokes and Phil Stokes and Steve Mitchell. And Mitch was so nice to us, man. I mean, he didn't.
To this day.
Yeah. He's a great guy, man.
Nicest, sweetest, giving-hearted person. He's a great guy.
He played with my cousins.
Yeah.
And in their band, Mike and Joe Scott.
Yeah.
He was a guitar player in that band. He said that's the only band up until that time I ever got paid.
So we ended up going from there and had a band called Chaser. Had some different players in there, and then
when did you run into my buddy Bob Maines?
From
Westerville.
Well, after Chaser was done, we were looking around. We had to find out. We were still basically having gigs with a guy named Bob DeVoe. I don't know whether he was our manager, but he's the guy that got us gigs. And so we brought Bob in, and he was 17 years old. He was a fine player. Just, he muscled
I knew him then.
Yeah.
And he blew everybody away.
He muscled the fretboard as well as anyone around. He could play, he could play the Rush stuff, and we were having a great time. And, but I had to call him because he gave me a call and he goes, "Yeah, I can't practice for 3 weeks." I got grounded. He was 17 years old. I told him, I said, "Dude, we love you, man, but we're going to have to get another guitar player."
I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, how old were you guys at the time?
I was still right out of college, so I was
couple years difference.
I was about
that's
20,
a young time in
22, 23 years old then.
Oh, I was 17 with that when we played at the Agora, it was called.
Yeah.
When we played in front of the Muff Brothers, I was still 17. But he had an issue. That is an issue if you're grounded and you can't play.
Yeah, it impacted the band. So was that Sayonara Bob at that point?
Yeah. I know it was sad, man.
Sorry, dude.
And to this day,
I don't mean to throw. I love Bob Maines.
It makes me feel bad, man.
Everyone's learning. And
so
growing
maybe you can tell us what did Bob do?
I think it might have been a prom incident. I don't know.
No, I mean
I never got caught. I was the guy that never got caught, and he did apparently. I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
I was wondering, what did he do musically? Because I lost track about, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, afterwards.
Well, you know, when he was 17, he did some things with his bands that he was involved in at that age, and they were good. And they would do events at school, but then he also, I think, moved further into some more local band playing live as well as recording. And so he did some recording projects, very young age, but then also moved through, additional band situations. Bob's always, I think, known where he was going musically, and he's always experimented and stretched with gear and experimentation with, tube amplification and effects and stuff. I mean, and he's always had high-end gear. It's wild, but he did a podcast episode. It'd probably be a good one for you to, because he covers all that stuff that he did.
Yeah, because I until we started talking about him today, I didn't know what happened to him, and it's made me think. It's like he was so good when he was younger.
He was in Radio City.
Yeah, well, he worked with James Pat. I believe to at least in the initial stages of Stadium 11, and he ran with Stadium 11 for years, and then ultimately is now with Radio City. Yeah. But those two bands were both QFM house bands. Radio City most recently, last couple of years. But I think Bob Maines, I think he can make the claim that he's the only guy in town to be in two different bands for QFM house band. But he's that player though.
Yeah.
He's that player today.
Yeah.
And you guys got a hold of him 17.
Yeah. So we ended up going with
but
a guy.
But you let him go because he couldn't handle 3 weeks off.
Yeah. We ended up going with a guy named Pat McKiernan. We knew him as Punk McKiernan, and very good. He is the son of the author Dennis.
We're good. Oh, we're good.
Sorry, man. Oh, how embarrassing.
No, we're good. We're good.
All right. Okay.
It was just the microphone. It's okay.
Just a cell phone.
It's all these cords.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
But and we ended up working with him. And then we added a keyboard player, and that was Mr. Pete Seaman. And we were in a band we called ourselves Palantir, but the real pronunciation is Palantir.
Nice.
Okay, so.
QFM 96 always called us that.
Yeah.
Planner.
Planner, yeah.
On what's happening.
Yeah. We used to call ourselves Pals and Queers.
Pals.
Queers. We didn't care, man. It was just.
Right on.
We had nicknames for every band in Columbus. So it was just one of those little things that you did. But we played out and quite a bit,
And Marty's been with you this whole time on bass?
Up to that point,
up to that point, yeah.
And
then we had a band called Witness, went back with the Gainey Brothers with Pat McKiernan, and that was a very, very good band. We started playing, a little more Southern rock and things like that, stuff that we didn't, we would play earlier, but we started playing it, just for the fact that
it was popular.
It's popular, and I didn't mind.
Urban Cowboy was like the number one movie.
I didn't mind
all
doing
that stuff was going on.
I didn't mind doing it.
We were all wearing cowboy boots. Were you one of those guys?
And we played some good gigs.
Yeah.
And we played some rough gigs. Where some of the bars we played in at the time. What you see today with all the establishments in Central Ohio now, they're so nice. They are so well done. They have great sound, man. They usually have their own, stage systems. It's, we never had that. We had to bring our own crap. And a lot of times it was
your own PA, your own,
yeah. With, what is it? Good old Blues Boys without the net, without the cage.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally. I mean, that happened. Things coming out.
And and then. It's funny because you start to, some of the guys were starting to think, well, this is not what I want to do. I want to, go, like Mike Gainey. He's probably one of the master clock repairmen in the country. I mean, grandfather clocks. I mean, he's the man. He's on the east side of Columbus. Michael Gainey, grandfather clock repair, and I'm telling you, he is. He's probably
shout out. Michael Gainey.
Yeah, and he is he's a hell of a nice guy. He and his brother Marcus passed on, but and then he had an older brother Dave that was our sound man, and so we were tight with all of them. Partied down some great nights, partying with those guys, and but we ended up Mike left, and then Mark moved on. He went and quit, so we brought Pete back in, and drummer, and so we started playing out. That was in a band called Signals, and
Nice. I remember that name. Why do I remember Signals?
well, there were probably two. There was another band in Central Ohio called Signals at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And but we just kept playing. We didn't care.
I think they came along a little after we did.
Yeah,
but,
I think we were first, and then they came on, but we still played for that band lasted until probably 1985, 86, and then I just finally got fed up with everything, and I just stopped for a while.
Yeah.
And Marty kept, and that's when Marty left, and then he goes, I got an audition with Frank Harrison. I went to take the audition.
Take the audition. Check that out.
And the first gig I think I saw him at, you guys were playing a bar out near Newark, I think.
Yeah. They changed the name of it so quickly that I don't remember the name of it. But I do remember that gig, and I remember you telling me you used to stick with the fingers on that. Gig.
Yeah.
You're playing with Frank Harrison.
Yeah.
Dump the pick, man. But you ended up playing with Frank for
five and a half, 6 years.
Which project? Frank Harrison.
Harrison and the Straits. That was a band that had been probably a decade.
Yeah.
Frank had, and he'd had it here in Columbus, and he moved up back to Hollywood, Florida, for a while. And when he came back, that's when he picked up Dennis Carson.
Yeah.
And I would not have gotten that gig if it wasn't for Dennis.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he went to bat for me, and I was playing, as difficult a material as we could possibly play in a cover band, and that's not what Dennis and Frank were doing. They were doing what they do really well, like it was just night and day from what I'd done. Just very heavy, and it was a little intimidating, but Frank's such a great,
powerful.
Oh man. And Frank, is a great teacher, like I told you.
Yeah.
And so he just kind of brought me along, and it was a good ride. It was a fun ride. We did a lot.
Find the groove and ride the wave.
And by the time,
him, right? Just let him paint.
By the time that band split up and he started the Frank Harrison group, he'd established himself. And I don't think Frank would find fault in that statement. He knows.
He gives a lot of praise to the people that he's worked with. He does.
He's been lucky.
Yeah.
But, Frank is careful about picking who he wants. He won't pick someone that I think is going to overplay. It just clouds things up.
Yep.
He played with Pat and Jenny for years, and Pat was about a steady,
fine bass player.
Yeah.
Played with J.D. Blackfoot, really at a high level. He's got a great reputation in Columbus. Maybe someone might call him an old timer, but if you remember Sweet Cheeks, Kay Harris and that band, back in the 80s.
I followed him a lot because I was in love with Kay Harris.
No, that was Pat Jenny.
Kay Harris,
Mike Nugent.
I didn't care about any of those guys. I was infatuated with her. She had a great voice, man.
That's good.
They would do Eli's Coming, and they would just, her and I think he had a girl named Chris that was singing with them too. So both of them, and God, the way, the power that they had, and it was
It's all that.
Oh, it's pretty cool to watch.
Oh, and Kay's still doing it.
Oh yeah, Kay's in a lot of different bands. I still to this day, I'm afraid to reach out and be your friend for the fact that he goes, no, because you'll end up saying that you used to, stalk me. No, I did see her quite a bit.
Did you stalk her?
Yeah.
Ron? Did you stalk her?
I wouldn't say I stalked her, but
you followed her.
yeah,
Yes.
I followed her.
Yes.
Define stalking.
Yes. Well,
No, I would just go out to bars and see the band. I did not call her house or anything like that. I did not follow her out to her car. No,
that's cool.
But yeah, it was and then I ended up playing with a band called Avalanche, and they had been around for a long time, and they were that band.
How'd you get sucked back in? So you said you took a little time off,
Took
but
a little time off.
how'd you get wooed? How long did it take?
Oh God.
Well, he wouldn't come back when I asked him.
Yeah.
Okay, you were asking.
But
him.
he had family things. He was raising children.
raising
Yeah.
children.
Prioritizing
I was coaching.
life. Yeah.
I coached. A lot of it freaks people out. I freaked Steve Mitchell out a couple years ago. We were watching TV at Planks, and we're sitting there. He's doing these called him baby shots, and I'm watching as a college basketball game on, and there's something happened on the court, and there's all this crap, and they went over to the table, and I looked right at him. I said, "This is exactly what's going to happen." I told him exactly what was going to happen. And so when they called it out, he looks at me, he goes, "How did you know that?" I said, "Dude, I'm a 21-year Ohio high school basketball and baseball umpire. I did both. I was a multi-sport, official, high school."
You could read it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just, and he looked at me and goes, "You're kidding." I go, "No, man." But I had to do it because I was divorced. I had young sons. And I wanted to make sure they always had pocket money. They had $20 in their pocket at all times. If they went out with friends, they weren't freeloading off somebody. They were, and that's just how you roll, And so I did a lot of that. I bartended up at the amphitheater. It was incredible.
The amphitheater.
I got to see everybody.
You talking about Polaris Amphitheater?
Yeah. I remember I was going to set up one afternoon, and I got there early. I started walking by, and there's the guys in Boston was playing that night, and there's Tom Schultz out there. They're playing 3-on-3, and one of the guys quit. He looks right at me and goes, "Hey, man, you want to play real quick? Man, we'll do a quick game, 20 to 20. I don't want to. Okay. And Tom Schultz is, he's tall, and he's very, very good basketball player.
Really?
You never told me that.
Huh?
You never told me that.
Oh, no, dude. And I threw baseball at Troy Gentry, too. My brother Randy, he's, we would always, talk to these guys all the time. You just say hi to them. Some of them, like Melonhead. You can't talk to John Melonhead at all. You can't even look at the guy. He gets upset if you even look at him. So, some of the guys are cool. But I remember I threw a no-look pass to Tom Schultz. And he caught it and just laid it in. He looks right at me and he points at me and goes, "Oh." And it was on then, man. We just killed it. We killed it.
So where was this court that you were playing
It
with
was.
Tom
It
Schultz?
had like a little court, just one.
At Polaris?
Yeah, just one of those
cool.
little
Yeah,
roll-up
just out
basketball
there.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Passing the time before
They have
the
one at
gig
Riverbend, too.
With Tom, so you're playing basketball with Tom Schultz.
yeah,
That's sweet.
it was like I said, I never thought much about it, man.
Yeah.
You meet all these different people. Had Farm Aid, and being that I was in the VIP bar. I worked in the VIP bar, so we had all these stars in there. And Dave Matthews walks by. He don't even look at you. He's so aloof. He would like look up in the sky, just to,
Probably stoned.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know,
Sherman,
but
something.
I guarantee you, Kix Brooks and Willie Nelson came by. They were stoned and they shook hands. They're like, "Hey, how you doing?"
cool.
It was super cool, and we had just a great time, But I joined Avalanche, and that was in like 88, 89, and played with those guys, and for about 4 years, and had different members. Marty ended up playing with them again. And,
Well, I mean, how could I not? You were in bad shape there with those guys.
yeah, no shit.
What?
Well, Stevie Husky was very good, and Eric Wetzel was the keyboard player, and he was just fine. He was my boy.
Was it a fist fight or something that happened on stage? Or?
Oh yeah, two guys. We were playing out the town pub on the west side, and both these guys are really small in stature. It was the bass player and the guitar player, and one of them was playing Double Vision, and the other guy was playing Dirty White Boys or something like that. It was, and they got in an argument, and then we had a little tussle afterwards, and I had a few words with one of the guys, and
Oh,
you know,
I can't imagine, Ron.
oh no, that ended really quick. You know,
Oh,
it's like
too bad.
once I said it, the guy looks at me, he goes, okay, you didn't want nothing. So we end up playing
Didn't want nothing.
we end up
Went
playing
home. He went home.
we end up playing the Westgate Lounge like 2 weeks later, and the same thing happened. And I told Husky, I said, nah, I can't do this, man. I said, you know, I ain't doing this. You know, you get rid of one of them or the other, I don't care. And he got rid of the bass player, which is,
Oh my God.
you know, these two guys hated each other.
Yeah.
And then
That's too bad.
we ended up doing some gigs. Marty he came in, but the guitar player was not that good, and we ended up bringing in
Greg Rowland.
Greg Rowland, and he was
There's a name.
Greg Rowland was
Greg can play too.
he was he had a really good entertainer. He was a fun entertainer.
Is he still around Columbus?
No, he was in Chillicothe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a character. Let's just say he's like a cat with 9 lives. I always say that, you know, you got, you know, Willie Nelson, you know, the guy from the Stones, and Greg Rowland. They're still alive, man. You know, after all that they've done. But Greg was in fine form then, and we played. That ended up playing really well. And then I got to like probably '96. Once again, I took some time off, and I had some medical issues.
Yeah.
And starting to develop medical issues, and and then in 1999, I got divorced. You know, shout out to my ex-wife. I don't ever think about you.
Aw.
No, not at all. Nice lady. Don't get me wrong. Nice lady.
I genuinely love my ex-wives.
Yeah, okay.
I do.
Okay.
I do. But I love my girl today.
Yeah.
She's the best.
Beth she
She is the best.
she's the
For me,
best.
she's the best.
But and that was in 2000. Well, we started playing out in 2000, and it was Marty and myself, and we got a band together called the Choosy Mothers. And
like that.
The whole idea of the band was play stuff that I could sing well, stuff that we could play well.
Your wheelhouse.
Oh yeah,
As players, right?
We wanted, you know, and we did a lot of different material. We brought, you know, Eric Wetzel's back in. He's, you know, playing keyboards.
And Eric, he'd played with the Gods before.
Yeah.
You know, he'd played around quite a bit. You
Yeah.
know, there's another guy who's no longer with us, but you know, in cover bands, sometimes the best ones I remember are the ones I had the most fun in.
Oh,
and
we called
that Greg was in that band.
yeah, called him Captain
Rowland.
America. And then the drummer of that band was the one and only Jerry Raymond,
Yeah.
who is Lars Raymond's brother, his younger brother. And he's one of the best drummers
Love
I've
that guy.
ever played with.
One of my
man.
favorite drummers, and I've played with some great ones.
Wow.
Yeah, he's that good.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, and we were doing material that, you know, that we just chose. You know, it's just choosy.
Mothers.
Yeah, our little logo.
Do you remember we did the song from South Park? Love Gravy?
Love Gravy.
It was off the South Park album.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's Ike Turner, and he did the intro, which is the slow part, and then it was Rick James.
yeah, Rick James.
Very funky tune. And,
Oh, yeah.
And oh man, it was so much fun.
Yeah, and we were doing all these different, you know, County Blue cars. We were doing, you know, and then after about 6 years, Jerry goes, "Man, I got to take care of my business." He runs Rayco Plumbing, okay, in Lancaster, Ohio, and he's an excellent plumber. You know, I've used him many times, and so he moved on, and we brought in. I think the next one was Dan Thunderfoot Hickey. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and this is, Marty had been playing with the Backstreet Band for a while.
Mhm.
You know,
Tom Holmes, another guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tom. He was
Tommy's passed on.
Southside musician, just
Legendary.
I mean, it's a household name there.
You know.
Played for 40 plus years.
His-
He was in the Myth band.
Yeah. His
in the
son,
70s.
His son Dylan is, I think he's the drummer in the Swag Band. They play
Cool.
here. Yeah, they're local.
Swag.
Yeah, they
2
play here.
G's.
Yep, they play here local, but he's also plays.
They're hot
Yeah,
band.
he also plays guitar and the keyboard. So he's one of those guys, multi-instrumental. Tommy did a great job raising the boys.
You know, one time, I think when Roger first saw the Mothers and he saw Jerry playing with us, he pulled me to the side and he said, that guy's too good for you guys. I said, what? What are you talking about?
We were talking about the legendary Roger Robinson from the west side of Columbus.
Nice.
He lived
Behind the adult bookstore. That's how we introduced him.
We introduced him.
Our new drummer, ladies and gentlemen.
From behind the bookstore.
Roger Robinson, right behind it. He lives on the west side, right behind the adult bookstore. Yeah.
You know,
Too cool.
and he was just, and Roger is plays multiple instruments. He's a very good guitar player, drummer by trade,
Banjo player?
banjo. He played one night. And someone brought a banjo over to my house, and what he did the theme from Beverly Hillbillies, and then he did Orange Blossom Special.
Well, he has a history with, being around those old time pickers, bluegrass pickers. I mean, he's got pictures of sitting on Lester Flatt's lap.
Oh yeah.
As a child, George Jones brought him out at the fair.
At the fair at the Franklin
to do White Lightning.
No way.
Ohio State Fair. Roger, he's just like, was he 7 or 8 years old? And okay, so what you don't understand is, and when he told us this, it was hard to believe for me and Marty. He goes, yeah, my mom was George Jones's girlfriend between his first and second marriage, and then second and third marriage. And I'm looking at Roger going, so your mom was George Jones's girlfriend? He goes, yeah. And then he tells all these stories about waking up on Saturday mornings eating cereal and looking over, and there's George Jones passed out on this couch.
Yeah. He's got a picture of Johnny Cash, very young, and George Jones, both like
Beautiful.
George Jones has a flat top.
Yeah.
And, and so they've got a picture of George Jones. He's wearing this shirt. And then in the next morning, there's a picture of the two of them having coffee, and his mom's wearing the shirt. Sorry, Roger.
Oh my God.
I hope that's not too much.
Freaking nightmare.
And then Roger, he shows us a picture, one of the most iconic pictures. I told him, I said, I want that picture so I can put it on a T-shirt, because no one else, I guarantee you, nobody else in this world has that picture.
Right.
It's Roger's. Right. And I think he can use it because he copywrote it, because it's his picture. And he goes, see those toys in the background? Those are my toys. Me and Marty looking and go, we don't care about your toys, Roger. What an incredible.
Oh, and Johnny Cash looks great. I mean, he's super young. It's just amazing. It's like no
1964,
one's seen that
65.
photograph before.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Right.
and then I had and then
Exclusive.
So then you realize, Roger's telling the truth, man. George Jones was his, Corinne's boyfriend or girlfriend.
Well, he said that he rehearsed his entrance at the fair to do White Lightning, and he had a mandolin, and he would run down the hall when George said, I've got a guest, ladies and gentlemen. And he said, I'm going to introduce you, so we're going to rehearse it.
That's the cue.
And so when he got on stage, every time George looked at him, he ran out on stage. And he'd say, not now, boy, not now.
Not now.
So you can imagine, what that was like.
Oh yeah.
And George Jones actually was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He showed up for that one.
Yeah, he probably showing up sometimes, man. But Roger, he ended up being, after Dan Hickey left the Mothers, we brought Roger in, and it was probably one of the best times, some of the best times I ever had in my life.
Well,
Awesome.
yeah, Roger played in the Maroons.
Yeah.
With Willie and
Tommy
and Greg.
and Greg. And then Greg, he left, and so we had to pick up another guitar player, and we picked up, in my opinion, to this day, he's still one of the finest guitar players in Central Ohio, and his name is Derek Edelblut. He's from Lancaster, Ohio. Everyone knows him as D-Rock, and D-Rock is a bad mother.
Really?
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Okay, but he did, it was, and he plays the Stevie Ray. That's, I mean, maybe not as good as Frank, but damn good.
Pretty good.
But that's not even his forte.
No, that's not.
He'd pull up in his car to do a job, and it was just like, it was just like, and then he'd get out of the car and sing "What a Fool Believes" and sound just like the guy. You know what I mean? And you're going, "What's up with this guy?"
Michael McDonald.
Yeah.
So but right now, D-Rock and his son, Haji, they have a band called Gudger. And Gudger is one of the top bands in Central Iowa. They play Asa clubs and all these different places. They're a heavy band.
Original band.
Oh, they are
heavy rock.
Heavy rock. And yet, Derek, it's easy for him to slide into that. And like to this day, man, he's still our brother.
Oh yeah, yeah.
By far.
I wish I was nothing but the best for him. And his sons are both. His son was an amazing drummer when he was a little boy. You knew he was going to.
Yeah.
That was going to be his thing.
Drummer.
But he plays guitar and bass as well.
He plays guitar and bass, and his voice. He's the singer. And he's really good. And he played a year with the Mothers for hanging out with us for a year. And he told me, he goes, "Man, I learned so much by hanging out with you guys and learning
That's
from you
really
guys."
cool.
And that, it made me feel good, but I'm thinking, how come you didn't tell me you could sing like that, dude? And they were, like I say, one of the top bands. If anybody's out there listening to this and you get to go see Gudger, you know who they are. You know what I'm talking about. So
Nice shout out to Gudger.
Yeah.
Gudger with a D. Is there
with
a
a
D?
G, Gudger.
Gudge. Well, I didn't know if it was Gudge, like in
G-U-D-G-E-R. And I'm
judge.
thinking,
No D.
Gudger. I thought,
It's not.
what does that
It's
mean?
Gudger.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, though. Yeah, it must be like a sexual.
Of course, you think that.
Like a,
It's sexual. It's a position. It's a position. Good man, let's do the Gudger tonight.
Okay.
Time's up.
it could be a Steely Dan thing, though. You never know.
It's hilarious.
The
Oh, yeah.
Gudger. I have the packaging comes to mind.
Oh,
the
my
Gudger. The Gudger. Are you kidding me, man?
Great band. though.
No. The band I'm sure is good stuff, and that's a great shout out.
Derek's probably thinking, would have been better 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, I know. My dumb ass doesn't edit anything, so that'll
Well,
stay.
that's okay, man. Don't edit it. We love him, man.
Yeah,
And,
right on. It was all love.
Yes, he knows that.
And then the Mothers, we kind of fell off for a while, and we started doing acoustic, me and Roger and Marty. So it was
Oh, wow.
Roger on guitar.
What year was this acoustic?
Oh, that was 2012.
So
God,
you're
you
coming
know more than
through.
I do,
You're
Ron.
blowing
Yeah,
through here.
no, it was 2010.
Yeah.
And then I had, even after I had my operation, though, I was still feeling it, and had one of the craziest gigs of all. We were playing out at Buckeye Lake, and we did.
Are you going to tell this story?
Yeah, I don't care, man.
He's already started.
Yeah, I'm already started. Okay.
Marty's is a mistake. Is it a mistake?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I don't know what he's going to say. Let's see.
I suffered for years from ulcerative colitis, and they had to take my large intestine out. I had a little bag on my side,
Yeah.
and which I named Bobby McBag.
Nice. Nice.
Okay, but that was my brother named that. But we were doing a gig out at Fairfield Beach, a bar there at Fairfield Beach, Buckeye Lake, and it was so hot. I dehydrated, and I just fell out. I just basically passed out. And Roger and Marty finished the gig.
Oh, I thought you were going to do the whole what you used to do to me when no one else was looking.
Just you, man.
Thanks.
So, yeah, Marty and I, we've known each other. We grew up in the South in Columbus. Okay, like I say, both of us, we knew I knew his older brothers, and we all had friends that mutual friends. And he went to Worley. He was Catholic. I was Protestant. I went to Columbus South, and we had an incredible time in the South End at that time. It was a fun place to live at.
Great fan base.
Oh.
Ron, everybody that was anyone was always at our shows. And
Oh.
we never really had any trouble. That's really how we got our start. And they've stuck with us. We still play on the South Side. They still come out.
Yeah, still come out.
Yeah.
We were doing the last 2 years. I was doing some Obet shows, and but we did the acoustic thing. Let me finish the acoustic. We
were there.
We had a great time, and but
So
we started getting back into playing in a band, and so we added a keyboard player, Donnie McClincy, and Roger, and
It was kind of Roger's thing he tried to put together with Ron and I, but just want to say something about the acoustic thing that we did. That was a lot of fun because it was like 70s music, almost like yacht rock stuff.
I'm doing that stuff now with the Tim Farrell band, so I know what you're talking about.
Ron and I
Like,
were all
it's
about
fun.
that.
Yeah.
But the other guys we played with
Didn't wanna do
were
that.
not that. And I never thought it would ever happen.
Well-
and he is suited for that.
well,
Oh, Ron is?
Yes.
Oh, God,
and
yeah.
the
Okay.
three of us could sing together really well.
we would do the Crosby, Stills, and Nash and everything. But the first night that we were thinking about doing it, Roger looks at me and he goes, "Do you know this song?" And he started playing it on guitar, and I went, "Yeah, Roger, I know this one." I found a diary underneath the tree and started reading about me. The words it written, it took me by surprise. You'd never see him in her eyes. So you were doing stuff like that, and Roger's like looking up, goes, ho, ho, ho.
Oh my gosh! When they went through that song, they almost got through the whole thing perfectly. Background harmonies, everything. I was sitting there going, "This thing is going to totally work. It's going to kill." And I mean, we
That's cool,
did the
man.
hollies, we added all this stuff, and I mean, I was like looking forward to going to rehearsal, which I normally do not like to do a lot, especially when you're trying to bring up other players that aren't ready. Not everybody is like that, but it's just like sometimes drudgery. That was never the case with this band. We couldn't wait to get started.
And the fact that
Quality speaks.
and the fact that all of us are musically inclined. We knew our parts, and we would sing those parts, and our voices meshed very well together. I mean, it was very, very well.
I'm really, really glad we did that.
Oh yeah, it was. Like
How long did it run?
We did that 4 years.
It was a while. I mean,
3.5, 4 years.
Ron booked us for like our lifetimes at a place in Buckeye Lake. It felt like we played every Friday night for 8 years.
Yeah,
there.
we played the Copper Penny out there.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love
I don't-
playing the Copper Penny. That's a great little place.
Well,
man.
shout
I
out
love it.
to Ron Copley.
Ron Copley and his wife Vicky, who owned the bar at the time.
Yeah.
I
They
went to-
treated us so well.
And I went to high school with Ron's younger brother, so he knew me, but he also really liked Ron for whatever reason. And so he just treated us so great out there, and it really got our feet in the door in a lot of places.
We got to meet, hooked up a Randy going for a while. He did some stuff with us for a while, and he's one of the regular guys out there. And but we ended up. I think Ronnie sold sold the bar, and we started playing some of the other places out there. So it wasn't the only place we played out there.
Mm-mm.
And and I know right today there are so many places out there to play. The Port is off the hook.
Port's
It
doing
really
good-
is a
they're-
nice place.
Yeah, they're doing good work. And
Yeah.
they have great food there. I think they have great barbecue. It's like made on site, and all the stuff they do there is top notch in regard to working with bands and helping music get stronger in the area. But yeah, the Port and others too. A lot of other venues around Buckeye Lake these days.
Well, after that, that's when we started wanted to get in a band together again. And, So Marty and I started a band with Johnny Moore and Roger and a little fella that played guitar and keyboards and drums.
Gotcha, man. That's cool.
So, but that band went on to become Late Night Alibi, which I now call the Overnight Zombies. Okay, a little shout out there, but I'm not friends with any one of those guys
I
at
got you,
all.
man.
And so I ended up, for the past 2 years, I was looking for a band a couple of years ago, and I called Matt Sistone. I said, "Man," I got some gigs in Obetz, one for a bike night, and then one for the Zucchini Fest." And he goes, "I know just the guys."
Yeah.
So I go to rehearsal with these guys, and I walk in, it's Matt, and on the keyboards is Mark Kreis, who's played with Frank. He's recorded with Frank. He has his own recording studio. He's an incredible guy, man. Really super nice guy. And I mean, from the musicians I was playing with, he was like 3 steps up. I mean, he was just, and super nice. I mean, he could play anything, any key. You know, he could just go, well, if you don't like that key, I'll play this key. Well, okay. But, and I look over at the drummer, and the drummer is Jason Levitt from Disturbed Silence.
Right.
The man.
Right, he's got a right foot, brother.
Oh, not only that, it's like, you know, I'd play with, you know, the band I was, you know, had been in. You know, the drummer is incredibly light hitting drummer. And, you know, Jason broke the snare. The second song, you know, and I'm thinking, holy, and
I know, he does that shit.
he's a strong player.
Oh, yeah.
And so you got Jason Levitt, and then
It's a Stone on bass.
yes, a Stone on bass, and then on guitars, my very, very good friend now. I didn't even know him. I knew who he was, but I didn't run in those circles. You know, these guys are, you know, like top-notch musicians. They record. They're, you know, it's just not what I do, and I always felt a little intimidated, you know, being around those guys. It's Chris DeBurle, and shout out to Chris because I still work with Chris right now, and we have rehearsal about 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so
He's a monster player, man. Oh, monster.
you know, and so in like the first, you know, we're doing Green Eyed Lady. Now I know you're probably
You're
thinking,
just grooving
you
to
know,
that stuff.
you know, and but that is not an easy song to play.
No.
And those guys just in 10
Pull it
minutes,
up.
they had it down. I mean, just, you know, it's like,
And
whoa,
you're singing this. You're singing that. Yeah.
you know, and
But you're just feeling all that good groove, and it's bringing the best out of you, isn't it?
I had a great time, man. My voice was
What was the name? Was that South End Boys?
South End Boys.
Right on.
You know.
Yep. I remember when you guys went
Yeah.
down, and I missed that show, the first one that you guys did.
You know,
But I knew the significance of it. You know, you were coming out of something and going into that, and I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
That Stone helped, you know, kind of pull
Matt,
together.
and Matt has been,
He's a beautiful person.
yeah, he's been one of my best friends for, you know, a long time, but
He got me started on bass recently, like in the last
that's
year.
you know, he's just one of those guys,
beautiful.
man. He's a beautiful person.
Yep, he
You know,
is.
I got to sing for his mom, you know.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
so I'm, you know, I've been around her twice, but the second time I was around her, you know, she goes, "You have a very good voice." I went, "Well, thank you, Mrs. C." I call her Mrs. C, just like, you know, Fonzie. So I'll be Ronzi. And so, you know, I sang an Italian aria for her, and she was like blown away. But you know, Matt right now, we did 2 gigs that year, and then last year Matt didn't do it, but we had Rob Reeves come in, and Steve, God, oh please Steve, don't get mad at me. I can't. It'll come to me. And then Mark and Chris. And the first gig we did, we brought in the professor, and it'd be Michael Cox from the sax player.
Right on.
And it was, wow, you know. And you're playing Steely Dan, and we're doing all different kinds of stuff. The stuff that I never got to play because I didn't play with musicians, you know. But besides Marty, I mean, the other musicians, the guitar players, that wasn't their thing. Or if they tried to play it, it sounded pedestrian.
Yeah.
You know, can I say
I
that?
understand. Yeah, you can say that.
Pedestrian, yeah. So-
Beautiful music.
It was, and then, you know, we did 2 gigs last year, and but this year I just said, you know, I'm 69 years old. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 69 years old. So,
Right on, man.
You know, I'm hanging in there as best I can. So, and you know, I've had since I've been playing out since 1979. It's been a hell of a run, man. It's been, and I'm friends with basically everybody.
Good.
I mean, all these guys that you see out there today, you know, they've all accepted me. You know, Patrick, you know, all these guys that, you know, I don't know, I just get along with them, all of them. I only have one person I don't like, and he knows who he is.
That's
You
all
got
good.
that, boy?
No, dude.
You know I don't like you. And Yeah, Marty's over there going.
Not that it's anything personal.
Yeah,
No, no.
yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
good,
but
man.
see, he told me what was going to happen, and I didn't believe him. And when your best friend tells you something, and you find out, you go, yeah, okay. I should
Should
have
have
listened.
known. Should have known.
Should have known, man. I should have listened to him. Because,
Well, you know, all in all, it wasn't a wasted experience. You know,
It's adventure.
anything that you
adventure.
ever did, you know, it moves you forward, and it did move Ron forward. It moved me forward. You know,
Yeah.
we really went into that group looking for, you know, something we wanted to do, and we hadn't done it in a long time. You know, just challenging ourselves with cover music that's hard to play. You know, we kind of got away from that because we started off doing that stuff and was like, you know, but it doesn't get received as well, you know, in the venues that we play. So we did a lot of other stuff.
oh, shit.
No, you're okay. It's always timing.
Come on, Ron.
How do I get rid of that? Sorry, ladies and
No,
gentlemen.
it's all good, brother.
You know who it was? It was a telemarketer. What? Who would
The
know?
one by your house.
Might
Yeah.
be spam.
So, you know, it wasn't a total loss and, you know, really moved Ron forward too, you know.
Well,
Right.
yeah, thanks to
Right.
Matt, I got to play with some.
And, you know, I spent 5
Incredible.
years,
Right on,
I spent
brother.
5 years with those musicians, so it wasn't
Yeah.
like all bad.
No.
It was just a lot of rehearsing, you know, and
you know,
it was just another thing in the group. I don't, you know, we're not done.
No, you're not
playing.
done. None of
So,
you guys
yeah.
are done.
So, you know, it's just another learning experience. And I don't have any, just so I can say this, I don't have any problem with any of those guys.
No.
And, you know, I didn't have that experience. So I'll put that out there.
Right on,
Yeah.
man.
you know, like I say, and you know, some of the guys I don't know that well, and so I can't say they're not friends or foes. I don't know them that well.
Yeah.
You know, I go out there and I get in a bar fight with those guys as my backup. No. Him, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, yes.
You guys ever get in a bar fight?
Try to avoid it.
At this stage in life, the best altercation's the one
Always.
that's avoided.
Always.
yeah, always.
Yeah, I mean,
Too many
always.
guns out there, man.
Well,
Yeah, nowadays, man, it's
yeah, I mean, that's not why I got into it. You know,
Right.
I mean, we got into it for the right reasons. And of course, you know, finding your niche as a man and you can be somebody, that's always part of it, you know,
Yeah.
especially when you're young. But we got into it because of the music. I think it really, really was what drove us, and all the guys that we played with, especially the best ones, you know.
For sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we all, you know, Ron was mentioned, and Pat McKiernan, and Ron Cannon, you know, I knew these guys within 6 months. They were going to be someone.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, Pat's a rocket scientist.
Yeah, and Ron Cannon went on to become the president of Saban Music. That is Mr. Haim Saban. That's Saban Productions, and he was one of the writers on the X-Men cartoon series and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, their song. So, you know, my kids would see this stuff as they were growing up. They would come home and watch it on TV. And they go, "There's your buddy Ron Cannon." I'm going, "Yeah, that's you know."
I mean,
and
Ron came to this country, like from Israel, like 2 years. He'd already absorbed all of our modern music and could play any of the stuff better than any of the guitar players we auditioned. And he was just amazingly intelligent.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
he
skilled.
Yeah, very skilled, and you know, he was playing the Eddie Van Halen stuff before a lot of the other guitar players in town were doing it.
Right.
You know, everyone, you know, a lot of these guys now, they're all, you know, like Chris, you know, playing with Chris, he can play like just on electric
Is he
guitar.
playing an acoustic instrument
acoustic
with you?
right now.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll bet you he's enjoying that.
Yes and no, because he
can't
told
get the tones.
He told me, he said it is a lot different.
Oh.
But he has this
It is
feel,
night and
and plus I like him. You know,
Yeah.
we are truly friends, and I
good
like
to hear.
him, and we have sort of, you know, same kind of, you know,
Sensibility.
sensibility. You know,
You guys
about-
have a name for your duo?
no, man, I don't know, you know.
You don't know yet?
Don't know yet, man. We had one rehearsal, but it went really well. And
One rehearsal. Okay.
one
So this is early.
oh, this is incredibly early. But you know, he knows right away that, you know,
It'll be something special.
That kind of
It will.
style, it fits my voice. I'm allowed to.
You got one of these Shure 55 mics?
No,
I see you using one of these for that project. You,
that might be a good idea.
Ron Duncan, and a Shure 55.
Five.
Look at this thing. So they're so classy, brother.
But if I would get on that and go, no, 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 no.
Well, it could be Elvis too.
Yeah, it could be.
Be,
Yeah.
but
Early
I,
Elvis.
But I'm seeing Ron Duncan behind that thing, man. Dude.
You know,
I'm trying to get Beth on this thing because I think she looks
She'd be on-
really good
yeah.
with this.
that's
But she doesn't like the. It has to be on a certain stand,
yeah.
straight stand. Just the style of it.
I like the
speaks
straight
to that.
stand
And
with
she's more of
a
one
20-pound
of these.
bass. Okay, because like I say, if anyone attacks you from the crowd, you got something.
I love basses.
We little shout out to some of the people that we played with.
Right on.
Eric Ramey, incredible keyboard player. Let me see, Randy going once again. Guys that. Can you think of anyone else?
I think you covered a lot of them.
Yeah, it's but being friends with all these guys, going out and seeing all the local bands now. I get out as much as I can. Every Thursday night, you can pretty much find us over in Obetz for a bike night, and they have some pretty good bike nights here.
Wait, which venue?
The Fortress.
Fortress.
Yeah, they have bike nights on
Yes.
Thursday
It's
night.
called
there.
Full Throttle.
Full Throttle.
Right on.
And we saw Blink Crosby there a little bit ago.
Yeah, Frank Lydia. And I've not gotten a
Love
chance
Frank.
to talk about, Frank, but I worked with him, and he's actually, I don't know if a lot of people know this, Frank's a good songwriter.
Oh, he's a fabulous
And
songwriter.
that's how I knew him, was with a recording project. We went down to the 5th floor before the building burned down and recorded down there. I think Robin Jenny, does that name sound familiar to you? He was a sound engineer down there.
Yeah.
And, he was very young back then, and I've always, of all the guys I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of them, and a lot of them were talented, really talented. He seemed to just songs just flow out of him.
Yeah.
You can either, naturally write them or not. It just is easy for him,
And he's a good
Ever
guy,
tried
too,
to
man.
write a song? It's difficult.
And in the past, we had guys like one of my big songwriting partners years ago was a guy named Richard Povenmire. He was in a band called Cirrus, and they were quite popular. They had a song on the Hometown album, and he was a very, very good guitar player. He ended up going to out to Arizona, worked for Motorola, got a job at Fender, got his dream job. And so he's designing amplifiers, and he was involved in the amplifier that does all the different sounds that Fender had put out.
Oh, a sampling system.
Sampling system, yeah.
modeling.
And he and another guy were the ones who actually figured out how to do everything. But his boss took credit for it, and he wasn't even involved in the copyright. And so he said that was it. He said it turned his stomach, and he said that was it. So he went back to Motorola. He has passed on since, and a great
I didn't
guy.
know that.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, Pat Sweeney was the drummer in that band. They had some characters in that band. Their road crew, Ned DeVoe, good guys. Still talk to him all the time. Then you got some of the other guys from back in the day. Trying to think of some of the other guys. I just want to shout out all the guys from
Absolutely.
the old days.
You guys have had the good fortune to have uber skills,
You
but
know-
you've been able to jam with both.
I've been in 2 bands with Mr. Pete Seaman.
Oh,
Okay.
Got to bring up Pete.
all
yeah.
right. Yeah, I was going to
So-
say Pete. Yes.
Yeah, we did. We opened up for Lou Graham. We were telling you earlier. We opened up for Lou Graham and Obetz, and it wasn't the fact that we were all sounding good that night, and Lou did not. He was rough, but our sound man that night was our buddy Bill Philpott.
Yeah, shout out to Billy.
Billy is And he was one of the best soundmen I've ever. It probably is the best soundman I've ever.
Well, he
actually
did
worked with.
2 world tours with Richard Marx, front of house.
Yeah, and he is Richard's. He was his road manager and live sound engineer.
He would call me up and say, "Me and Brian are gonna go play golf later on." He's talking about Brian Adams, and he's been on the road with Loverboy, and just everybody. It's insane. He's had the rock star career. When you go to his man cave, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
And it's his name on the records, and there's platinum records all over the place. From the
Damn.
Hooters.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have no idea who he is, and I'm thinking, man, I'm proud. I'm proud, and I'm fortunate enough that he's been my friend for.
The killer is his arm around Tina Turner here. And I just...
He and Pete both, they get their pictures taken with everybody.
Pete has the best collection.
Well, yeah,
He's the coolest cat who's met everybody.
He is my daughter Allison is my oldest child, and Pete is her godfather.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And he's been her godfather forever, and he's just, it's good to have around the family.
Oh, I had so many good times with Pete, and I mean, we used to run, and he's just so much fun to be around. I mean, if you knew him just as a dude, going to see shows, and I mean, could talk about him all night. He's just so much.
Played sports. I played softball with him. He was on a softball team. And then our buddy Patrick Tapman. And everyone in the South that knew who Pat Tapman was, but they didn't know his name was Pat Tapman. They knew him as Woozy.
Really?
Woozy was... he lives down in Circleville now. He lives in Round Town.
What does he do?
He was a stage manager.
Stage manager.
All right.
He worked at Newport for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
But
he was. You could always count on him to throw ice on you in the shower, on the road. And,
teabag.
He's
teabagged a few people.
As a matter of fact, you have to ask Pete about that.
Yeah, no.
I don't think I want to do that.
Should have brought that one up.
Please
Pete's cringing right now.
Well, I didn't say it happened.
No teabag stories, man.
But he was just a brother.
I didn't bring up the bag part.
Just a pure brother. And we had got Gary Klinger, work with us for years. All these different guys, and you never forget that. And the soundmen we had over the years, just good guys.
Sound folks, and they're getting stronger. The technology.
Oh, the technology.
And the ability to rifle through all the frequency ranges of every channel that's being captured, like the bass line, they got the frequency chart, guitar frequency chart, they can adjust, and they split everything out. And you can hear, so the technology for music today is really incredible.
I know you're probably familiar with this, Lynn, because you know how many people and you're involved in the music business so closely. But lately, we've been seeing the local bands that have been playing in Obets with no stage equipment whatsoever,
Right.
no bass amp.
Right. It's all
The pedals are going, I guess, directly. There's no guitar amps, and I mean that everything's ear monitored. That's new.
Yeah.
It's relatively new, but it's been developing for a while. But like some of the premier sound folk are all going through a DAW or like a digital system. It's amazing. But there are no old school air moving experiences in a lot of these scenarios that you're describing because of the technology. But it's so crisp and clear.
There's no stage volume.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
It's sterile. If you're old school like I like to feel whether I'm playing guitar or I'm playing my bass.
He's got a point. He does have a point.
I'm not necessarily...
Try to tell Frank Harrison
that
he's leaving his amp at home.
Well, but I'm not necessarily loud, but I want to feel the drum kick. I want to feel the bass. I want to feel... That's what gets people moving in my book. But, I guess it just depends on who you're serving, what event you're serving, what venue you're serving, what project you're serving. Some of the sound of these projects is a very modern sound where you have syncopated and you can move people with, you know, the time effects of reverberation
Right.
and
Or
pulsing of the different channels and
Dynamics.
but
dynamics-
moving the air from
Yeah.
the sound and not necessarily from, you know, where the source is generating that channel.
I just know
signal.
for bass guitar, you know, being a tube guy, you know, to get that warmth from the tubes, you know, I don't know, can you get that, you know, from a digital? Yeah, I guess you probably could or get close. You can tell how old I am. I'm just not loving that.
I just hope Obet's holds on to Joe because he's very, very good. He's a
Joe Klaus.
yeah, dude is a hell of a singer, man. You know,
yeah.
You know, I sit there listening to him sing one night. I went, holy
But he's
shit.
a great sound man too.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's a nice guy, and he's a Reds
That's
fan.
what I like.
He's a
It
Reds
seems like the
fan.
best sound engineers are very likable guys. You know, the ones that are approachable and you know you want to work with.
They know the craft.
Len Murphy, you know, remember him from the Muff Brothers? You know, he just didn't know us from anything. He was just a no-name first gig band, and he was so kind to us. And you know, we've still got a tape. So I didn't know we did, but Mike Gainey had a tape from that opening thing. All the songs are on there, and you know, he did us right.
Yeah, but man, we played so fast. We're doing like UFOs, rock bottom, and it's going. You're going, oh, man, who's riding that horse? You know, and it was a little out of control.
Blame it on cassette tapes.
Yeah, but it was, and it was so much fun.
Speaking of fun, what's the craziest thing you guys have experienced together? How many years? How many? I mean, this is 40 plus years. You guys have been doing Columbus music based.
You go first. I got
right?
my story. You go first.
There's just too many.
You can't make this shit up either.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can remember a guy who came up on stage, and this is not the funniest. Okay, I'm sure it's not, but
I know exactly.
it just happened. We were at a South End club, and a guy came up to request a song, and he just, I don't know what happened in his pants, but something really awful came out of there
malfunction.
and literally cleared the stage.
Oh,
I just remember saying, "We're getting a TO."
because
it
what
was
you saw.
it just wasn't going anywhere. It was, do you remember that? How could you not?
Dude, I remember the night. There's this girl out there dancing. Marty is over.
Oh, come on, man.
He goes, she looks like Henrietta Hippo from the New Zoo Review. And I looked at him and went, dude, I think she heard what you said. He goes, I don't care. I lost it, man.
Well, he said, you know, that's effed up that you just said that. And I said, I don't care. He goes, oh, that's funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, but he did stuff all the time, you know.
Yeah. There was probably one of my greatest nights of actually singing a song. We were doing the Westgate Lounge, and Greg's playing it. We're doing Saigon Kicks, Love Is On The Way.
Oh.
And there was an old girlfriend there who was there, and she wanted me to dance with her. I had my wireless mic, and I'm out there dancing with her, and I'm singing. Love is on the way, I can see it in your eyes. You give this one more time tonight, baby. And the whole time she's singing in my ear, going, and it's bleeding over. And I got through the whole song, and I mean, I just sang the song. And Marty and Greg's up going, that's the greatest version I've ever heard of that song. How did you do that? Because, I mean, she was in my ear, and it was everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest things I ever saw was we played the Key Club, and it was a bar in the South End. It used to be, they had a house out front. It used to be a biker house, Road Saints, and they sold it to a couple who ended up building a bar there.
Al and Juanita, shout out there.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
Al and Juanita down, and they had, this club was by far the best club in the South End. Probably, if you were south of 70 and you lived in the South End, that's the bar you went to.
You've heard of a Showcase bar?
Yeah.
Right.
when you walked in there, the stage was front and center.
Front and center.
It was the focus of, you know, and I think McGuffey, the first time I went in there, McGuffey was playing.
Nice.
And, he kept it that way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was band centric. And those places are so hard to find. It's like gold, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They had in the background, you know, behind the stage, you had all these mirrors. And we were sitting there playing. And it's Greg, you know, I think we were doing Talks to Angels or something like that. And these two girls came up to start grooving. And they had like shorty shorts on, you know. And I knew right away they were strippers. And they were dancing, slow dancing, touching themselves. And they weren't looking at us.
No,
They were looking at themselves in the mirror.
Right on.
Hey, does it matter?
Not really.
Well, it matters to Ron because he wants to look them both in the eye.
I was
at the same
divorced, man. I was like, you know, my tongue was hanging out, you know, one side of my mouth.
It's all good.
You know, I have a wonderful wife now. My wife is
Of course.
awesome. Yeah, she is.
Have you ever
awesome.
been flashed by
yeah.
people?
Oh yeah.
That can be good or bad.
Yeah,
You know.
I agree.
Yeah, I've got flash. You know, but yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on, and I would laugh. Some nights I would just laugh until I cried because you know
You can't make it up.
can't make that shit
You
up.
cannot make it up.
And the material we were doing, we would do like a syncopated. Every once in a while, we did Mustang Sally, and we'd fill a dance floor every time. But sometimes we just do it kind of syncopated just to change it up. We did all kinds of weird stuff, man.
Different
So,
tempos just to change things.
Well, it's just funny to watch a bunch of white people dance to Mustang Sally.
I mean,
night after night, and
Wilson
sometimes
Pickett.
Oh, the dance floor would be packed.
and
I mean,
sometimes guys weren't really dancing; they were more or less doing calisthenics.
Yeah.
And it's
You know,
yeah, it's
I get that.
it was just, and you know, throughout playing out, you know, I remember we did years ago. We had the band Chaser, and we did it the Mushroom Festival. It was up in north of Delaware and all that stuff up there, and there was probably about 4,000 people there.
Kevin Kildow
You know,
produced
Kevin,
that.
yeah, and it was just this huge crowd, you know, at the Mushroom Festival, and we're up there playing Black Sabbath. We're doing Neon Nights. We're doing Heaven and Hell, and we are killing it.
Yeah.
And the crowd is so, and then,
That's cool.
And then the band behind us, they were doing like the Eagles and stuff like that, and they had to get up there and follow us, and I felt so bad for them because it was like really rough on them that night, you know.
I don't remember them.
I do. I remember everything. I'm sorry. I chronicle everything. Everything's chronicled.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, it's it's pretty bad. You know, sometimes though, and I remember basketball games, that meant nothing, and yet you do the game. You're out there and you're actually officiating a game, and when you're done, you go, man, I remember that. You know, why do I remember that? It would just freak you out. I know there was one time I did a basketball game at Taze Valley, and on Friday night we played the night before at the Key Club. We were going back. We were playing that night again, and so I'm out there doing a game, and I'm catching some crap from the people at Taze Valley. You know, which God came down on the ninth day and anointed them basketball kings. Not really. Every school was like that. But this guy yells out, he goes, "Choose your mothers." I started laughing. I look up at the crowd, and this dude looks at everyone and he goes, "That dude right there is a hell of a singer. He just killed it last night." I went, "Thanks, man." But the rest of the night, the rest of the game, I didn't hear nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, nothing.
Well, at least you had that.
Yeah, I had that one night where no one was saying anything to me because they thought I could actually sing.
Right on. You can sing, Ron Duncan. You know you can sing. You
Yeah,
have a
but-
gift, man. And
Yeah,
I'm glad
but-
you're still doing it.
Yeah, I still feel honestly pretty good.
Good.
I work on my voice all the time now. I stopped there for a while. I had COVID so bad. I mean, it really,
I got hit pretty hard myself.
it hurt, man. I mean, I couldn't hardly sing at all. And it was months. And when I finally got my voice back, you know.
I kind of wanted my immune system to be exposed to it just so that I'd be stronger
yeah.
per human, you know, like sort of that little bit of me wanted that to happen. But the other part was like, you know, just play it safe as you can. But I you know, I was out there too, and I got it a couple times.
Yeah.
Everyone eventually got it. But I'm glad you're still here, Ron, as a result.
Well, we had a couple other guys. Willie Wilson, who was down in Lancaster, Mark Willie Wilson. Mike Rocco, sound man and vocal.
How did you cultivate some of these Lancaster and Southern Ohio folks, you know, into like performing with you guys? You got there. It sounds like there's some jewel players that came from those areas.
They were,
and
big,
they're still are,
big time
obviously,
scores,
right?
big time scores. And
But
it was
what's
just
the
who you know.
What was the community? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
who you
now?
know. Greg knew D-Rock, and he had also played with Backstreet a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had to track him down. I actually did a gig with Derek D-Rock, and I'd never met Jerry before, and I just kind of crashed, you know, all the material that they had, and I went and did the gig. I had learned 30 songs, and Jerry just blew me away.
Yeah.
He was so good. Yeah. And when I started thinking about putting Mothers together, I knew Ron was going to be the singer, had a guitar player, but we really needed a drummer. And I was like, boy, if we could get that guy, man, it would really, you know.
Right on.
And I didn't think he would do it.
He showed up though, and
Man, he just always was on it, you know.
and we had this little thing that, you know, we played all these different songs. There were some songs we would on the song. We'd play it maybe once or twice, and we would look at, and Jerry would look at it and go, "Hey man, that song right there, it's I don't think we should be doing that." We go, "Well, what do you think, Jerry?" And he would act like he was wadding up paper and throwing it over his shoulder.
It's awesome.
He was never a guy who talked much. He was all about his business.
Yeah.
And he just looked so good. You know, some drummers just look so good back there doing
making
their
it look
thing.
easy.
Dennis is one of those guys who just like, he's like an animal. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you talked about breaking snares. Hell, he did that every night.
Power.
There was broken stick sawdust every, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about him. If you look at Dennis when he's playing, really back in the day, I don't know about now, but back in the day,
Ferocious.
you would, and I played with him for a year before I realized that he was actually yelling while he was playing. And we were playing at Stars, and I was like, it's the drum riser is in its own little room. And I actually got close and was yelling at him about something, and I couldn't. And I noticed, I said, dude, do you realize you're screaming at yourself the whole time you're playing? I said, how did I not notice that?
He knows.
And yeah, well, I told him, you know, I don't know if he knew that before or whether it was just, you know, it was before.
Putting him
He
on
didn't
the
wear
clue
earplugs.
choo-choo.
You know, he didn't ever hear his head voice.
My favorite local drummers are Ben Neal,
Oh yeah.
J.P. Benz,
Oh yeah.
Rick Mortolino's my boy, man. I love that dude, man.
How about Sammy Huff?
Yeah, Sammy Hoff,
Yeah.
you know, Keith Pickens.
Keith Pickens.
Yeah, I just played with him.
John.
at,
You got to throw John Homan in that.
Yeah, John Holman. As a matter of fact, his wife knows him.
There's so many.
They were roommates at one time, weren't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think she said they were roommates at one time.
Oh no, that's the guy that's playing with Frank. What is his name? I can't think of it.
Oh, well, I
He
know.
plays with,
I
not
thought
Frank
it was-
Harrison, Frank Lydia, and Bling
Oh, okay.
Crosby.
Okay.
He's played with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I
Jeff-
can't think
Jeff-
of Jeff Kayampa. Not Jeff Kayampa.
Jeff Roberts. Jeff Robert.
Robert.
Jeff Robert.
Yeah. The professor.
There's just a lot of really
There
great.
are.
Really
And
good.
I've been
You
lucky.
can't start listing them because you're going to miss.
You know, I went from playing with a guy that it's like a 12-year-old girl with all these other drummers out here that are just so powerful and just, you know, I'm going, damn, it's awesome to listen to, man. You know,
Kayampa is another one. Or no.
Kayampa is a bass player.
Klug. Yeah, he is a bass player, but the gentleman that plays drums in the same band that he's usually associated on. Geez, I'm going to lose it. Tony McClug.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Just killer. He just unbelievable. Those
Right.
guys. There's so many though. There's
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
high quality, and you guys have played with some of these folks.
Yeah. I when I go down the list
Yeah.
of some of the guitar players and you know, didn't actually get the job with Rosie, but I got a call. My girlfriend actually took the call from Bobby Boo's one night. I was probably at rehearsals with another band, Escape, at the time.
Yeah.
And they set up an audition. It's one of those things you get home. It's like, yeah, this guy named Bobby Boo's called. He wants you to play Rosie. I'm like,
Get
are
the
you
hell outta
fucking
here.
with me?
We had an audition with
Sweet,
Money.
man.
You know,
That was, yeah, that was more of a meeting. And that was Pete and I both.
Yeah.
That they were looking to replace them, those two guys. And they ended up hiring a couple guys out of Florida
Yeah.
instead. But, you know, yeah, but I got the chance to play with Mark. And so I didn't get the gig, but, you know, it was great getting to know those guys. And they were
Oh, my
cool. They were
gosh.
very cool. You know, it wasn't really
So
my
cool.
thing because I had to ask Mark. It probably wasn't a very smart thing. I said, do you have a tape of your album? Because I don't have it. I wasn't going to go buy it. So he goes, yeah, come on over by the house and I'll spin you off something. He gave me a cassette. And then afterwards I thought, maybe that wasn't the best idea.
well, you had guys from the West Side, you know, but I got this past year, I got to play with Greg Gilkey.
Yes.
Awesome, good guitar player, man. Cool,
He's
cool
a
guy.
beast.
Kenny Kaplan, you know, super cool guy. James Patterson, you know, that's my
Another
brother.
key player, right?
Love James. And then Doug, what's it, the guy, the drummer?
Doug.
Yeah, the guy plays with Stadium 11. He also plays the Groove Brothers.
Oh, I'm not familiar with Doug.
God. Oh, sorry, Doug.
We have so many.
You know, I know.
Yeah.
Man. I'm sitting there trying to remember all. No, when I leave here, I'll remember every one of these people's names. You know.
Well,
talk.
playing with Frank, I got to, guys would come up. Frank's one of those guys that if you're out there, he's bringing you up, you know, especially if it's one of his buddies, you know. Ray Fuller would come up, you know. We're doing Sweet Home Chicago out of C, starting on the 4. Bang!
Yeah, there we go.
And you got
And
2
a 1,
seconds to
and
figure
a
out.
2, yeah.
He didn't count anything off. He just started playing. So you
C4,
do the math.
boom, yeah.
Yeah,
there
you're
you
starting
go.
on the turnaround.
And you hear Frank play with Rick Calera, who's probably like the master.
Rick's mesmerizing.
Oh yeah, he's like the
one of the
master
greatest
of
in
all
town.
these different, you know, progressions. You're going, God,
No
man.
doubt.
Do you guys remember Men of Leisure, right? Gaylord, remember Gaylord
Oh,
Dubois?
yeah.
Loved that guy, man. You know, and he was a fine guitar player. A lot of people don't know that about Gaylord.
Yeah.
Excellent guitar player. You know, Mike Nugent, you know, he'd come up and play with Frank. Those two guys together, that's a show.
Yeah.
Just fantastic
Yeah,
together.
Smooth.
Oh man, they play off of each other so well. You know, he played with Schwab and for years. You know, Mike Nugent's a great musician.
Collaboration, I think, is necessary for people to grow
Oh my gosh, yeah.
and to you know, be re-inspired.
Ron
You
will
know,
tell you.
look at this guy. He's doing acoustic with one of the greatest guitar players around. you
When
know?
I got through
Singing.
playing with
he's playing guitar with one of the greatest singers.
I can't
Sorry,
wait
man.
to. Some of these songs we're picking, though, I'm going, I can't wait to sing that. You know, we're doing. You know, we do Stone Cold. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's some.
when I
lyrics.
played with Frank,
Yep.
I would tell Ron, you know, it's like the biggest thing about, you know, heading off in different directions. I played with 4 or 5 different bands, you know, while Ron wasn't doing his thing. You know, the experience of playing with other people
Yeah.
is something that Ron really never got to do a great deal until, at least you know, I mean, on his own, until, you know, Late Night Alibi kind of fizzled out. And then, you know, he grew in a whole different way, which is what I've been telling him all along, you know, it's
Yeah.
like that is going to, and it's made him completely grow. He's changed.
It was.
Stone has done that to me too. Actually,
Yeah, Matty is.
he's you know, you're fortunate when you meet. I've known Matt over 20 years. In some capacity, he's either been a sound man or I've gigged with Matt Stone. I mean, like he's a good, but you know, the opportunities that the concept you're talking about, you meet someone and then you collaborate or in his case too, you know, he's been the most inspirational and instructive force in my embracing playing electric bass.
That's confidence,
It's
right?
it's like this guy knows what he's doing, and he's gonna send me down the right road.
He's a good teacher.
And so you
But
feel
he doesn't instruct. He'll let me do it on my own. Like he'll say, "Here's material," and then you work it.
You know, well,
But he knows enough of the nuances that you're gonna figure it out on your own. You know, in your own style. And it's going to evolve over a long period, years, the rest of your life.
yeah.
Anything that you take on.
Sure. That's why I always go back to Frank. When I think about him, probably the most important thing was just how much I learned. And, you know, not a lot of it didn't have to be, this is how you play this, because I didn't really need a lot of that. It was the way you do it.
Right.
And he taught
The
me about
interpretation.
conviction. The word conviction. You go on stage with the attitude
That you're bringing it.
people are going to know this, we mean business.
Right.
And you know, you just and so I never really went out on stage going, oh shoot, you know, we're playing in front of Robert Trower, we're playing in front of Nazareth, we're playing in front of Foghat, REO, whoever. We didn't worry about it. And you know, that's tough to do because people in the audience want to see the national act. It's like when the lights come up and it's like these three lollies you don't even know, and it's like, oh man. So you've got to do your thing.
you got to do your thing, man.
That's great advice. I mean, you're there to perform what you do. Your set.
If you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it.
Right on. Yeah, so bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You better bring it because he's going to bring. Frank will bring it and leave you standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The liquor talking.
Yeah.
Not change the subject, but, you know, Keith Fields is an incredible guitar player.
Yes.
You know,
He's still involved in that project.
still involved in
Yeah.
the project, you know. And Paul Weiss.
Oh.
Was you there the night that we did the bel canto style of singing? It was at the place up north.
The liquor talking at
No,
at
this was
Mozart's, or
Mozart's, and it was the guy from Tony Bennett night. So they're doing Tony Bennett,
Oh, nice.
and so I'm doing. I did a couple songs. I did Blue Velvet.
Nice. I see that
And
for
so-
you. I
so-
see that for you.
I do too.
You know, here's Paul Weiss playing the song, and Tommy Edwards on the drums,
Right on.
and me, and they told me, they said, schmaltz it up, you know, you really schmaltz this up, you know, and for someone who does, you know, you're doing, you know, rock and roll tunes, you know, you go, she wore blue velvet. Bluer than velvet was the night. I mean,
Oh, I love.
That's schmaltzy.
You should hear
man.
him do
That's schmaltzy.
Sherry Baby. I mean, he
gonna
can
do
do
it?
all that stuff.
Give it to us, man. I'll turn this down a little tiny bit.
oh
Go
my
ahead.
God, that's doing falsetto. That's,
Well, go ahead.
you know. Share. Oh. Yeah, that's it, Ron.
Take two.
Share. I can't do it tonight, man.
All right.
I've
Leave it
lost
to me. I picked
Facade-
it.
facade-
Yeah, you picked a song that-
facado's not good. How about an Italian aria?
La rosa di bianco il vestito, geloso di schiudere gran sol, di gioca le rose sweetità, carezza de fiore lo stuol, caramoso don femi tuarcono, in tono ricreato giabò. E tu non ti desti ed in vano mi sto qui dolentia canta medion che tu la veste bianco e schiude l'uscio il tuo canto non sei la luce manca ove tu sei Nasce l'amore.
Thank you, London and Nancy, for that lovely rendition.
Bravo.
Of rainy nights in Georgia.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Ron.
Oh man, that's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. Ron Duncan, love you, brother.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Marty.
Mr. Whalen.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us
on.
both.
You guys are just. We're gonna. Hopefully, you'll hang out a little bit longer. Beth, I think I saw Beth peeking around the corner.
She peeked around the corner.
You've performed so many years in the Columbus area together, and it really is an honor to have this moment to talk through your backgrounds. We didn't talk. You guys have spent a lot together, but there's a lot that Marty has done as well.
Yeah, it was probably 8-10 years that Ron and I weren't playing, and I never stopped.
Yeah.
I didn't stop playing until probably, 55, 56 years old. I did 2 years ago, I did the show with Frank and Dennis. And, that
was Frank Harrison.
Yeah.
Frank Harrison and the Straits.
Yeah.
Reunion show at Fender's. Yeah, it's a big show.
Yeah, so
Recent.
we did that one, and, it was like, that was where I wanted to be with that. But if I just don't really, when I think about doing something in the future, it'd be something I didn't do, either that or get back with some people that I haven't played with in a while. That sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But some of the guys that we played with can't play, like they used to.
Yeah.
And, you just hate to go to them and say, and then they not be able to
Right.
do it.
Bring
So
it
that's
around.
actually an issue. And some of these guys are so good, So I just kind of leave that. But I would like to do something that I haven't done. And it's out there, I mean, I used to think like old guys, there's just nothing for them to do. There's but there is work out there. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Late Night Alibi is a perfect example.
Yeah. Are you guys always doing live? Or are you recording? You have recorded material out there that you guys have produced?
Just hit and miss. Never really been involved in original acts. I don't know. I can't speak for Ron, but
Yeah, I recorded some with Richard Pompmeyer, wrote some songs. I do a few things with Mr. Matt now. He invites me over, and I get to go in his little studio.
He's
and
busy, man.
butcher a
He's
tune
a
or
busy
two.
guy.
You know.
Don't feel bad. He's got a lot of shit going on, man.
No shit.
can't
He's
keep
just
track
one of the
of
most
him.
busiest guys.
And he'll work a bass lesson in for me all the time. He's such a sweet guy.
An incredible player.
yeah, he really is.
Monster
Very,
player.
very underrated vocalist. I'm just telling you. For him singing.
He's rated high
Yeah.
in my book as a
Yeah,
vocalist. He
I
can
think
sing.
some people probably don't think he's that good. I'm going, I think he's a good sing. So.
Well, he's a monster player.
No doubt.
I mean, just makes it look easy.
No doubt about it.
All right. Well, then, thank you.
And thanks for
I
the
hope,
aria.
and for all of my West Side brothers out there, shout out to all of you. Tommy Cash, Greg Hall, all the guys that John Rao, all the guys that no
Scotty
longer.
McMillan.
Yeah, Scotty McMillan. And some guys that are no longer with us. Tom Courtney, just incredible player.
That's
great
who
guy.
got that job, by the way.
Yeah.
With Rosie.
With Rosie. Tom Courtney got the job.
Yeah.
So, and, all these guys, JP Dipple, and my brother from another mother, Tom Bloomer, and he's been a great friend.
Tom Bloomer is a name. Is
Oh my God.
is he a bass player?
He's a bass player, man, and he's one of the coolest guys I'd ever.
He's a
imagined.
guy I want to meet. I do.
And then my buddy Larry Titus, who played in a lot of bands in the old days, and now he owns a air conditioning company, who just put a new air conditioner, a furnace in my house. So it's Air Quality Solutions is what it's called. It's out of Grove City. And so just to let you know, and sure it was a little pricey, but it was a Linux. And I have I have an older home, and it is. I'm just saying, I'm glad he put that system in because I've never been able to have my
Good for you.
upstairs.
Yeah, so there's that.
There's that, you know. So, and there's just so many other guys out, you know, from around town that that you've met, and all the people out there. If I've forgotten to say anything, you know, sorry. I'll see you out there. Love you, and Marty.
I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Oh my
you.
God. Great having you guys tonight.
It
you
was
know.
fun, man.
Well, I think there's going to be more discussed later.
Oh,
Because
there'll be some
I have
people
some
listening.
big questions. I
There'll-
want to do it tonight.
There'll be some people listening going, yeah, okay.
Wow.
You know.
Oh man, you know the stories you guys have are like great memories. Hopefully you're generating some memories for folks that listen too.
Oh.
But it's also, I think, a lot of lessons and a lot of good wisdom that you guys have shared too, based on how you've been influenced and how these things have kind of come about for you. And it really is a lot of it's happenstance, but recognition when there's magic somewhere.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we've gotten close to people who were our idols. You know,
Yeah.
I've got a chance to talk to people that we all stared at the records, right, as a kid,
Yeah.
dreaming someday,
Yeah.
or could it be, you know? And I got a chance to meet these guys, and some of them were really, really cool. Guys from Nazareth never got off the bus, wouldn't let us have a dressing room, you know. But they were great. I loved that band. And then Robin Trower watched our whole set.
Yeah.
So
Right on.
it was you can't. I mean, I was good at stopping right there. I
Yeah.
didn't, but it doesn't get much better than
No.
that.
It's so awesome.
You know.
Yeah.
Would you do something else in the future?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's good. That's
Is
good
he
to
going
know.
to do it with me? I hope.
Well, he says
Well-
no to everything.
My mom passed away almost 2 years ago, and of all the musicians I know, that there were people that came and that knew my mom, but he played. I sang and he played guitar, and it meant a lot to me.
Betty.
man. My
Betty.
mom, Betty. Betty Duncan.
That's going to be something we talk about after we're done.
That's
All
my
right.
girl, man.
That sounds
So,
good to me.
You know.
Well, let's tip our hat to your mom, Betty.
All right. Well, she's still there in Obets, and I go by and see her all the time.
Right on,
Wham-blam.
man.
We gotta love it, man. She was
Bam-blam.
something else, man. So, all right.
Ron Duncan and Marty Whalen together in 79-ish. And they're still together today in 2005.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
awesome to see. I'm glad you guys did this together. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you guys. Episode number 116. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.